Hello, and welcome back to our podcast, To Whom It May Concern. I'm your host, Malak, here with my co-hosts, Inara, Khuwail, and Mariam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hey.
So, we know technology is changing at a crazy significant rate, and creators are pushing boundaries further than we ever thought possible. But, how far is too far? With these new creations like Siri and Alexa, or webcams in our computers, we're finding that our privacy is basically being infringed on. So, ultimately, does privacy really even exist today?
I don't know. I feel like we're stuck in this catch-22 situation where we want technology to advance. We love all of its advances, and we want to be safe and secure with the government, but we don't want it at the risk of our privacy.
Right. A lot of people are torn. You're kind of like stuck in the middle. I want to use all my apps. I want to use the internet. I want to use all these social media. And, these technologies, obviously we're using them because they make our lives a lot easier. But at the same time, it means that we're giving up our privacy.
But does it have to be one or the other? Like, is it use these platforms and give up your privacy, or don't use them and, your privacy remains intact? I don't get it.
I mean, that's what it seems like it is today, because all these platforms that we are using, whether it's like social media or these websites, they are just collecting data and information that we are knowingly and unknowingly giving them. So how about we just break it down, I guess, because this is a pretty big topic and it has a lot of layers. So let's just break it down and tackle one subject at a time.
Okay, so I would say looking at this, there are three main issues. The first one being privacy with the government, the second being privacy with businesses, and the third one being where these two meet in the middle, and where your privacy with businesses are being shared with the government, or your privacy with with the government being shared with businesses. So this all started, you guys bear with me, I'm about to drop some law knowledge on you people.
Yeah, boom.
So in terms of the government, it all started, I would say mainly, so they did have beforehand, but mainly the Patriot Act in 2001, which was signed in by President Bush, and it pretty much was created to detect and deter terrorism. So although there was many issues with this act, the main one was Section 215. Many civil liberty groups said that this was an issue because it allows the government to take any information from a third party, such as like your phone companies, internet companies, and force them to give them your information with secret court orders, by the way. So in 2015, the U.S. Freedom Act was created to replace the Patriot Act, but instead of replacing it, it kind of just restored everything that was in the act and just amended.
It's not that different.
No, it's not that different at all. The only thing is it amended Section 215 a little bit. So instead of getting this, bulk mass information on everybody, now they can only get a court order to get specific individuals as information.
So it makes it seem like they made a difference, but it's really just under the pretense of okay, we heard your concerns, here's something different. But in reality, it's just the same thing.
And they also kind of added this section where the government is supposed to be more transparent with the people. So in terms of the Freedom of Information Act, they're supposed to be able to get information from the government that was collected on them.
So basically, that act in itself allows me as a United States citizen to ask the government, what information do you have on me? But it doesn't prevent them from getting that information in the first place.
Exactly. But even with the Freedom of Information Act, it's so hard and difficult to get any information from the government. Because let's say you do, on off chance, do get the information, 99% of it will be redacted and blacked out, so you can't even read it. And then if you go to court to,
So you're saying the information they gathered about me, I can't even look at?
No.
So, it will be blacked out.
Yeah,
so
how does that
all
even
my
make
personal
sense?
information about myself that I did
Yeah.
and what they're looking into in my life is something that I won't even really see, even if I get these paper.
Even though they make it seem
documentation.
like we can.
Yeah, because if they deem it that it would compromise any part of an investigation, then they can take it out. And if you do want to go back to court to fight it, it's expensive and it's long-winded, so people just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
although it makes sense too, all
Yeah.
that money and all that energy, all that time. I mean,
so it's like this fake transparency. So they want to pretend that they have transparency, but in reality, there pretty much is none.
So what do you think? Should the government have the ability to... Because, the purpose of this is to deter terrorism. So do you agree? Is that a pro to the Patriot Act / Freedom Act?
I guess that depends on how many terrorist attacks have it actually prevented? Have they actually found beforehand and are able to prevent and protect us from that? I don't have the number for that, and I don't know if we'll be able to find that out.
I mean, here's the thing. So, like, kind of being in the state of mind of where the Congress was during 2001, it makes sense that they upped security a lot. You know, like, we were just attacked. It was a big attack. A lot of people were injured. A lot of people were killed. So everyone was kind of, like, on the defensive. So that's where the Patriot Act, I feel like it kind of, I would understand where it came from, where they're like, okay, seize everybody's private records, everybody's like could be a threat, whatever, etc. But I think they just took it too far. You know, like now they're just eyeing everybody, and they can consider anybody a target. Somebody just going to school, like high schoolers, like that one kid, you know, with the clock, whatever. I mean, it's not necessarily Patriot Act, but they just assumed he's a terrorist, so his life is basically ruined. Like they tore everything apart. So I think they did take it too far. At the time, it maybe made a little more sense.
I don't know. I feel like the government uses terrorism just to scare Americans into being okay and complicit with them using this information and taking that information.
Yeah, like a fear tactic.
It's just used as a fear tactic.
Yeah.
And if you think
I can
about
see
it,
that.
not only does the government do this, but a lot of other technology, like our, home security, like even that basically is kind of watching over your house and recording what's
Like,
going on in
she
your home.
just left. She's not
Yeah,
home.
yeah, it's also keeping track. Again, using fear to kind of make us purchase these items.
And be okay with
and
them
be okay
using
with
that
it.
information.
Right.
Honestly, it's so creepy, the type of security systems we have today, too. Like, oh, this person's at your front door. The door was just open 30 seconds ago. You know, like, everything is
The
being
window.
recorded. Yeah, and
The
it's just
window's
like,
open.
whoa, like,
you have cameras everywhere.
that whole Big Brother thing is like, it's a serious thing. Like, you're constantly feeling like you're being watched regardless of where you are or what you're doing.
And the cherry on top with all this is the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, also known as CISA, which is pretty much, now that we're advancing more in technology and we've switched from phone companies to now primarily the internet, the United States government created this act to enhance information sharing of cybersecurity. And they said it's to remove cybersecurity threats. But pretty much it could take your emails, your Facebook, anything on social media, anything you sign up for, your credit card transactions that are being done online, and it can be shared from the businesses to the government. And if the government deems that there's any threat to businesses, such as even trade secret sharing, they can share that information that they collected and give it back to other businesses. So it's really just like a hand-in-hand businesses and government type situation where they created this act to make it easier for them to communicate with one another.
And then
At our expense.
At our expense, and kind of manipulate. Would it be okay to say manipulate us into our decisions and our choices and what we do?
I mean, I feel like it's a psychological game at this point. But I don't even think it affects businesses, honestly. I think it even, like,
Well,
I
here's
think
the thing,
Canary
businesses
Mission
and
is a
companies.
product of this.
Businesses and companies, such as like Facebook, is considered one.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, like, even in terms of Canary Mission, like, it takes people's Facebook tweets, things like that, and it basically blacklists you for what you've said, whether you pose a threat or not. And it takes, like, high school students, it takes middle school.
So explain what Canary Mission is for those who don't know.
Okay, so Canary Mission is this big, I don't know if they're an organization, I'll just call it a website for now. It's basically a website that deems tweets, social media, Facebook, anything in general that can be considered anti-Zionist. So whether you're speaking about the state of Israel, whether you're speaking about Jews, whether you're talking about a protest for Palestine that you were just at, if it's something that they deem anti-Zionist, then they basically post you on the website. Like, they'll
blacklist you.
Yeah, they'll put up your picture, they'll put up the piece of information on social media that they thought was offensive, and they'll comment on it and they'll talk about it. And for a lot of people, it's like college level students, high school students, like, they're slandering their images, they're contacting schools, they're letting people know, like, oh, this is not right, this is anti-Semitic, things of that nature.
I think that's a little different though, because that's information you're voluntarily putting out there, as opposed to what the other stuff that we're talking about is information that you're not okay with putting out there. So that's why, like, privacy is two things. It's whether people or not choose to be private and are posting everything on social media versus information that you're not necessarily posting, but people are keeping a watch on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see, like, things that you're not aware are being taken advantage of or are being used or...
So I was looking into, like, different things about this for this session, PEW research actually showed that 91% of people said that they feel like they lost complete control and are concerned with their personal information and how it's being used and collected through these different websites. And it shows that we kind of lost faith in that there is even privacy for any of us.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely nowadays anything that you put up, even like a simple Google search. I mean, Google search yourself and all this information about you is already on there. And I'm like, how?
Not just that, you Google search about a purse you want to buy, and then all of a sudden on Facebook you see all these ads about purses. It's like so creepy.
No, like one time, guys, it wasn't even me doing like online search. It was literally a topic. I was attending a lecture, and he was talking about speed dating and like the cons with that. Literally, I go on my phone and I look at like Snapchat Discovery. First thing, speed dating. I'm like, that's so creepy. I've never came across this.
And it's interesting because Cambridge Analytica, which is a company that processes information and things that we put out there on the internet. So what they do is they use polls and questionnaires on different websites, such as Facebook, most notably recently, and they take that information to analyze the type of person we are, and they not only look at us who take these polls, they also look at all of our friends on Facebook and all their information and what they post, and they analyze each one of us, and then they put targeted advertisements to us, which ultimately shifts our way of thinking and can actually affect the decisions we make. Such as the elections, like with around Trump, everyone knows how like Facebook and Cambridge Analytica kind of came out and shows that the election was affected because of things like that.
And it's not even just social media. Like, don't think you're protected just because if you're not on social media. It's
Which
also
most
the
people
products
are.
that we buy. Yeah, but it's also the products that we buy. Siri in your iPhone, Alexa from Amazon.
Oh yeah, like the Facebook glitch. Like, remember that? Where the FaceTime glitch where you were making a call to someone and then literally they would be able to hear you before, even if you didn't accept. So the person on the other line could actually hear you. And some say they were able to see that individual even though they didn't pick up that call.
Yeah, I heard. And Apple had to like turn off the FaceTime, the group FaceTime for a while because they had to fix the glitch. Mm-hmm. But it's things like that. It's the fact that Alexa's always waiting for a wake word. Like,
I actually read a crazy article about Alexa. So it was saying that there was a guy and 3 other dudes hanging out, watching football, drinking. So they wake up in the morning and they see one of the guys that ended up dead in the hot tub, right, with blood, kind of like with a black eye. And the cops, they called the cops and they said, this is what happened. The guy's dead. We don't know what happened. And so now there's obviously a case on this, investigation going on, and they found that in the guy's house there was an Alexa. So, and the cops, basically the FBI wants to take Alexa because it records everything. They want to take Alexa to see, was this murder actually planned? Like, what happened to see if this guy is guilty?
Oh my God. So you can't even have a conversation at home without it being recorded.
Right.
But I think later on in the investigation, as you continue, like the more recent updates on it is that the lawyer and the suspect, right? They actually gave up the recordings willingly because he's like, I obviously didn't do it. I'm innocent.
But that's the thing. Then people go to say, oh, I don't care if the government's using my information. I have nothing to hide. Does that make it okay for them just to take it?
No,
just because you have nothing to hide.
I don't think that's right. I think you should still, you should protect what you give and what you don't give. But I think in terms of like that crime scene, I don't know. I feel like they kind of can ask for records to a certain extent. Like, let me just hear the records until 10 p.m. last night or something like that. Like that's actually concrete evidence where they needed support for like what they were looking at. Maybe it's different than just
that. It just depends on who you are. If I was the person who committed the murder, then you clearly don't want them to have the right to access that. But if you were someone who wants justice to happen because that was somebody beloved to you that died, I want them to use any types of means, any kind of technology for me to get justice.
And I mean, what do you think?
No, I was just gonna say the fact that this technology even exists, the fact that there's an Alexa or a Siri that's recording every single thing is the issue that we're addressing here.
When I read about Alexa and stuff, it was saying it doesn't necessarily record everything.
It's always listening.
But it doesn't record it until you say a wake word.
But it's 100% listening.
Yeah, it's listening because it's waiting for a command. Like, it's listening, but nobody knows what you're saying up until you say Alexa or Amazon or something like that, like the wake word. Supposedly, I don't really know how true it is. I don't own an Alexa. But, like, that's what
even with the whole Edward Snowden years ago when he was saying how the NSA is actually spying on us Americans, which completely affects us as Muslim Americans in the U.S. Like, we do feel like we are a targeted community that the government is keeping a closer watch on, that we even have people in our community that are looking into that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there's a documentary that recently came out, The Feeling of Being Watched, and it pretty much talks about all the records that the government has on the Bridgeview community and anyone related to the Bridgeview community. And the fact that they're doing this type of surveillance, they're putting bugs in people's houses, they're implementing, the CVE. The fact that they use the CVE in people that...
Well, what does CVE stand for? Counter-violence extremism.
Yeah, so in that sense, they're putting people, spies in the community as teachers, as community members, to collect surveillance and trick people into saying certain things or doing certain things.
And
Yeah.
that's... Go,
No, I just wanted to say, and even at one point when they were collecting all that information, there was a point where they had, like, FBI agents undercover, like, in the masajid, in the schools, like, just...
In FedEx trucks.
Yeah, like, just talking people up,
Mhm.
collecting information, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the masajid and the community, I don't know if it was ours specifically, but they ended up suing the courts, and they're like, listen, if these people are in here, we're not saying they're not allowed, but they need to make it known who they are. Like,
Mhm.
people need to be able to identify you as an FBI agent before you start conversating with them.
And the issue is the mindset itself. It's basically our government doesn't trust us, and they're waiting and trying to catch us in a wrongful act
Right.
that they're expecting from
That's
us.
exactly the problem that I had. Like, there was no crime committed, there was no terror act that would happen, but it's just them coming
Just
in,
expecting it. Like,
expecting
the
yeah.
name CVE, counter-violence extremism. Like, they think that they are trying to catch us in an act and prevent us from becoming extremists because we have that potential, which is the issue in itself. And
Yeah.
that's why they're using that information, wrongfully so, to do this.
And in reality, that action in itself is what upsets people. Like, what enrages people. Like, I could be normal, I'm complacent, I do my duties as an American citizen, and here you are accusing me that I'm going to commit a terrorist act. Like, it just in general just plays with your mind. Like,
It creates this paranoia environment where everybody's paranoid. They don't want to talk to people because they think they're being surveilled. They don't know who to trust and who not to trust. So it's creating this whole paranoia community. And we joke about it too. We're like, oh, the FBI is watching, Oh, hey,
Yeah.
FBI agent, can you send me the answers to my test because you're watching anyway.
It's become like a common joke between us. Like, and there was a time, like, even growing up, I was like in middle school or high school, and we would joke like, oh, we can't say this is the bomb because then we're gonna have FBI coming, like, even though we're joking around.
yeah. Or don't say that, they can hear you, or something,
Yeah.
somebody's listening,
Or like
whatever.
even talking about Palestine, like we'd have to be very particular in what we say and be careful with the words we choose, just so that nothing is used to twist what we say and make it seem like we're trying to say something that is terrorist, or you know what I mean?
And I think it's become a part of our subconscious. So even when I'm Googling something, I'm taking a prosecuting and defending terrorism class, and all the cases are pretty much, when I'm Googling them, I'm like, oh my God, I need to, make sure that they know I'm not about to be a terrorist. I'm not trying to find the legality, to find loopholes or anything in the system. Please, leave me alone.
Yeah, even when we would go door to door knocking, like, for Take on Hate, for AMP, regardless, the mayoral, like, for Abdel Nasser Rashid, when we would do door-to-door knocking and we would go to people and we would be like, hey, what do you fear most in the community? What's your problem with government? What do you think? So many people in the Bridgeview area specifically, because, door-to-door knocking there, they didn't even want to share that type of information because they were so worried that even if they weren't already on the radar, the government would use their information to, boom, persecute them. Like, they were already nervous enough, and it's just like, have you ever been harassed because we wear hijab? Like, simple questions, simple things, but a lot of people would turn us away at the door and kind of just be like, I don't want to answer your question.
Right, they're afraid.
Yeah, if you're not on the government's radar already, why put yourself in the path? It's better to stay quiet and, pretend that this doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Which is why a lot of people were afraid to be political. Like, a lot of the older people were like, oh no, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to be political. They just wanted to stay away from it so that the government doesn't bother them on a daily basis.
They just want to blend into the background, basically,
Mm-hmm.
of what our communities are.
Which is a way of silencing people. It's a fear tactic. If everybody's going to be scared about every single word they say, or any word that they say is going to come back to, bite them in the butt, they're not going to say anything. They're going to be scared, and it's a mean of compliance.
And that's the funny thing. Like, that's what they want us to do, and that's exactly what we're doing, even though we should be doing the opposite and speaking out and actually calling them out as to what,
Well, that's what we're trying to do with this next generation. We're aware of our rights, we're aware that this is wrong, and we're aware that it's actually going on, which is why we're doing things like this podcast or campaigning and actually going into office so that we can prevent this stuff from happening, or at least stop it.
And I just wanted to say something that's always bugged me. I hate the word extremist. Like, oh, this person's an extreme Muslim, that's why they're a terrorist. Like, no. This was a word that was created by the media to promote this type of image that people who are terrorists are the people who follow Islam extremely. When in reality, they're not following Islam at all when they commit these actions. So, yeah, and then they call us, people who aren't terrorists, the moderate Muslims, which makes no sense whatsoever, because we're following Islam the way it's supposed to be followed. There's no extreme, there's no moderate. Yeah, this isn't a scale. You're either following Islam or you're not.
And if you are a terrorist, you shouldn't even be considered a Muslim, let alone an extreme Muslim or an Islamist or any of those crazy terms, a fundamentalist that they use to depict a person that follows the religion.
Just to say that Islam is allowing you to commit all these crimes, or in the name of Islam that you're committing these crimes. And like Mariam mentioned earlier, the documentary, The Feeling of Being Watched, by Asya Bindawi, she did a phenomenal job in holding the courts accountable for what they're doing, for their actions. She demanded, and she was one of those people that she put the time, she put the effort, she put the energy, and she demanded to know who they've collected information on, why they've collected their information on, how it's affected people that they've collected the information. So if you haven't already watched the documentary, you should definitely go and check it out. It'll really give you a good idea of what the courts are actually doing and how far they've come with the information that they have.
And she also did an amazing job on the actual documentary and showing us, like the people in the actual community, how she went about doing it, the process, and what the government was actually doing.
Yeah, everything is legal. You have your rights to asking all these questions. We just don't know about it.
Yeah. And she got visited by an FBI agent, which is hilarious.
I mean,
she was
makes sense.
So deeply into it and documenting everything.
Yeah, she began being really watched.
Yeah, it's a good documentary.
So, we've talked about a lot, today. And so I wanted to bring on the conversation as to, like, how far is too far? So I'm going to give you guys different scenarios, and you guys tell me whether the situation was kind of too far or in regards to, like, going through privacy, or if it was, that's kind of okay.
All
right, so there's this guy. By the way, these are all, like, true. So there was this guy. Yeah, so.
So much different. Okay.
So there's this guy that traveled a lot, and he had a feeling that his wife is unfaithful. So he felt like his wife was possibly cheating on him.
Oh, God.
And so what he did, she had a Fitbit, and he had access to her information, her, heart rate, walks, whatever, on his phone, because they were synced in. And so he noticed that at 2 a.m., his wife's heart rate would increase to 157 beats per second.
How can you be sure she's not on the elliptical at 2 a.m.?
So, ladies, do you think that him having access to that information and using it maybe in a legal proceeding is...
Oh, he uses it in court?
Yeah.
And he's allowed to?
That's what I'm saying. Is that too far, or is that... I mean, technically he has the right to, because it was synced to his phone.
What is he suing her for?
I don't know if he's suing her for, but maybe to, like,
Maybe
prove,
like
divorce papers and stuff like that, so it kind of gets messy.
Some states are false states.
I mean, I feel like if she gave him access to it, like, usually with those type of things, you have to grant somebody access. So if she granted him access, then I think it's, like, fair game.
That's so funny that it's the heart rate that gave her away. And not, like, the traveling a certain distance, I would think.
Out at night.
Well, maybe it's both. Like, you went how far? Oh, unless you're driving. Does it pick up on how much you're driving?
Well, still, at 2 a.m., you go, like, 3 miles. Like,
so
where
that's
you
the whole
going?
thing, though, with privacy, is you have to be okay with giving that information. You know what I mean? So you're saying, Malak, that if she said, okay, yeah, you can look at my Fitbit information, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, legally, because she's his spouse, he has the right to access their phone information.
Yeah, I think it's fine, honestly.
I agree. I mean, the thing is, especially when it comes to court, the point of the court is to get all the evidence and all the information you have at hand so that you can make a just decision. Mm-hmm. So I agree.
And if that was, like, the breaking point for them, too...
That's awkward. That is so awkward.
Yes. Imagine how she feels having that type of, like, privacy being exposed in court.
Yeah. And another question about, like... So this one's another topic about spouse. How about your parents or your spouse always wanting to know your location? Is that, like, invading your privacy? Does this cause problems?
I think that's too much.
You think
That's annoying.
That is. But here's the thing. It's funny because I was living out, like I moved out and moved to Indiana for a while. So my mom wanted to have me like turn on the find my the location setting, whatever it is on the phone. It didn't end up working, but she was doing it just to make sure that I was okay, or if anything were to happen, she knows where I was. So it was like
A lot of parents say that too, by the way.
Because she's, you know, they're very scared.
Concerned.
Concerned, exactly.
But again, those are things you can control. So you can turn on, you enable the other person to see where you are.
Exactly.
I would be more opposed to it if you just put the GPS in my phone without telling me.
But whether you have it on or not, if you lose your phone, I'm almost 1,005% Apple can find it. Whether you have your location on or not, they for sure know where you are.
Do you think that's okay for them to always have that information on them? Like
whether
it's your spouse or your
Apple?
parent, anyone.
I personally wouldn't mind if my spouse or my parents or my family, like I know for Snapchat I have certain individuals that could always spot me to see where I'm at.
I turn that off.
Oh, I turn that off. I thought it was so creepy in the beginning.
But it's only like certain people that you allow to have access. So for me, I'm okay with people that I know. I'm okay with them knowing where I'm at, just in case something does happen or maybe they are concerned. I personally don't mind.
I'm okay with them asking where are you. I don't like them knowing where I'm at all times. That's weird.
Well, maybe because I know they don't actually track me, so maybe it's different if I knew they were kind of like watching.
Or do they?
I know,
but then I don't know. Like, imagine it's you and your husband.
But if you tell your spouse, no, I don't want you to access my location, that's gonna cause an argument. Or your parents, like for their younger teens, they want to know where they're at and to make sure they're okay. Like, or to make sure they're not doing anything suspicious.
But there are times when you can also send your current location at the time. Like my mom texts me, Malak, where are you? Send me your location. I could send her at that instant my location. But for you to like
constantly have it, or like, they text you, where are you? You say one thing, but then they look, but in your GPS thing it says you're there, or you didn't tell me you went there. You also went to ABC. You know,
right?
I feel it's just annoying things.
It's too much. I feel like, and that's.
I guess it's the way that they use it. It's the way that they use it. Like for me, my experience has been like, if you want to go look, but it's nobody's like been tracking me. Hey, not why you were there, or not here. It's not like I just don't think, but it could lead to that for certain individuals.
I just don't think it's necessary to have all that information out there for anyone at any time. Like, why?
Honestly, even with that
location, because if you got kidnapped, all right, we want that location on so we can find you.
If they get kidnapped, the first thing they're gonna do is throw the phone.
This is less about privacy. A lot of criminals are dumb.
They use fear.
A lot of criminals are dumb. And two, I think this is less about privacy and more about trust.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So honestly, I'm just going to go into that.
I'll tell you a privacy thing that I still think is so creepy, and that is Google Earth. Like, if you search your address or something, it's to the point where, like, talk about invasion of privacy. It's to the point where you could zoom in, and at that, let's say that day where they took the image, all the cars in the parking lot are there.
Oh, yeah. I've used it before.
If there's somebody caught in the front yard, they're in the, like, it's just, I just find it to be
Did you watch the movie Lion? That is how, so there is an Indian kid in India that got lost on a train station, and then he put up for an orphanage. Then he was adopted by his new parents in Australia, and then he used Google Earth to track down where his original family was in India.
See? That's weird. And it's creepy.
That is creepy.
Like, really? And he was, I did actually watch the movie, and he was old. So, like, 30 years later, he was able to retrack.
You're reunited with his family.
It's odd, but it's like weird.
Yeah, that is creepy. But so that goes on to my next scenario. What do you guys, is it too much to know that you could Google your name or anybody and find out so much information?
You don't even have to try anymore. You literally just put the person's name up, and the first one will be like, find this person. And they'll have your whole address except like one letter or one number.
You can even find people's police records.
Yeah, their criminal records.
Actually, your police records are open to law students.
Yeah, I think it's too much.
Yeah.
I do think it's too
Any
much.
public documents.
The thing is, I didn't put anything publicly on there, but you could still find my birthday. You could find my address. They'll like only remove two numbers from my address, but tell you like
your
exact
phone
location,
number, your
phone
family.
number, my job,
because
like everything.
Those things don't look at what you did. They look at any public thing that you've signed up for, any public records that has your name. Yeah, and then they could take that information because it's out there.
Even being at like attending Universal School or something, it's like they have all they're information.
Yeah, Universal School, your undergraduate, your high school, everything.
Your degrees.
All right, last one. All right, so they're saying that they're going to come up with an Alexa that could help you with your marital relationship. So Alexa, ready for this? Alexa could listen into your conversations, okay? And basically by the way you communicate with your spouse, she will be able to predict with 75% accuracy whether how healthy your relationship is. And if you guys are going through an argument, she will jump in and tell you guys how to solve it.
Imagine Alexa siding with your husband when you're
So is that too far?
Yeah, that's
Way
too
too
far.
far.
I'm concerned
That means
about
she's
my
listening
job.
all
Okay,
the time.
Alexa's taking over my job. What is
That's
this?
the thing. Yeah, computers and technology is kind of replacing the human aspect.
She's
of
gonna
us.
become a marital counselor, guys, and that's what
That-
I want to do. Like,
yeah,
what is this?
Well, back to the privacy part of that. In order to do that, she would have to be listening all the time, and her trigger words would expand more than just Alexa. It would
Yeah.
expand to any maybe elevated voices. Then she would start recording, or trigger words like curse words or something, and then she'd start recording and responding, which is just weird. But yeah, that's too far.
Yeah, I agree.
Too far.
Too far.
Yeah, so this has been a great conversation. A lot of facts have been thrown. A lot of opinions have been talked about. Please let us know what you think and how you think we can make these shows better, more informative, let you know a little more. But thank you so much to everyone for tuning in and listening to this week's episode of To Whom It May Concern. Please subscribe, like, and follow us on social media. We appreciate all the support we've been receiving so far. If you don't already follow us, please do. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Modern Skeps, TheModernSkeps. And please continue to tune in every week on Tuesday mornings. If you have any ideas about topics we should talk about, please feel free to email us at modernskeptics@gmail.com. Sincerely, The Modern Skeptics. P.S. Big Brother is always watching.